Welcome to the 10K a Day Dentist, the podcast that breaks the speed limit called average. This is the fast lane where dentists go to get there quickly. Now here's your host, the 10K a Day Dentist, Dr. Bill Williams.
Yes, welcome to the 10K a Day Dental Podcast. This is Dr. Bill Williams, and I'm glad you're here. As we say, welcome to the 10K way. I'm here and very excited to be with Dr. Keno Shore. He is from way out in California. We're here in a cloudy, overcast day, and I hear he's in Palm Desert. Is that right?
That's correct. Thank you for having me on the show. It's always sunny here.
Palm Desert is one of my favorite places I visited long ago, and I still remember how wonderful it was, cloudless.
Yes, I think we get about 10 days of rain or something like that around here. So it's a very nice area. It's kind of a golf heaven also for dentists.
Yeah, we're blessed to have you on the program. The 10K a Day podcast really celebrates experts in the field of dentistry and other allied health professionals that are of the same mindset, that we're looking for people who are avant-garde in dentistry, people who are looking to be entrepreneurial in spirit and are productive in their lives, and they are grounded and based in a way of thinking that's not common. So, Keno, I think you fit that bill pretty well.
Thank you for that note. And likewise, in our organization, we are promoting peer-to-peer collaboration. We're looking at ways to enable and empower clinicians to prosper better by seeking advice from leaders of industry like yourself.
I think peer-to-peer collaboration is a great title for this particular session, and I know it's going to pay off for the listeners.
Yes, I think they will receive quite a bit of good information from people that have actually done it, lived through it, seen it, versus people that claim to be experts in various fields.
Well, I'd like to introduce you to my audience, and as we go along, I've been in dentistry 45 years, and we've crossed paths really for the first time this year. And you've been in dentistry nearly a decade, and well, maybe almost 2 decades now. So tell the people who you are. I think what I'd say is you're a champion of private practice dentistry.
Yes, and I champion all of my colleagues that pursue that route versus working for third parties and bigger corporations.
And you owned 6 offices at once, and you saw the light, and now you have 1 office, and you're very productive in that 1 office, I understand.
I produced more in that 1 office than I did in those 6 offices with over 90 employees and staff. By focusing more on my patients and giving them the care that they want and seek with a lot of personalized attention, which creates a lot of referrals. And we work out of 2 chairs 3 days a week, and we make more money.
I found the same thing. I got asked a long time ago when I was being fairly successful with my 1 practice in 1 location, did I want to franchise? Did I want to split it up and make multiple copies of the same thing? Did I want to own a group of practices? I said, no, I'm just going to build this one big. And we went from 0 to $5 million in 1 practice, 1 facility. So that was good enough for me. I didn't need more than that.
That's all you really need. The problem with the message that our colleagues receive today in the dental world is that they come out, they set up 1 practice, they multiply that, they get 5 of them, and then they're skiing in the Alps. It's not how it works. You can't do something that the bigger management groups do, backed with hedge funds and unlimited resources. You're making $5 million like yourself. What else do you need? You have all your needs met and then some. And the next generation of your family.
Yeah, I think if any dentist can reach a 7-figure income with a single practice, single office, they don't need more. Now, that's just my personal opinion. But if you want more than that, it's possible. But what we can do in 1 office is pretty significant.
Yes, and it's creating a lot of problems for our profession, where that patient-doctor relationship that we once learned in dental school is being eroded away as now a marketing function by the competition. So my goal and goal of our enterprises, the global summits that we do and the world's top 100, is to maximize peer collaboration and information exchange so we can empower these younger generation doctors of what is actually achievable. And you're a protege of that, so I have a lot of questions for you today.
Yeah, I'll be super glad to answer any questions that come up to you. Your background almost mirrors mine. You came into the business of dentistry a generation after me, but you went through a lot of the MISH program, for instance. I was in the MISH program in 1989. Went through the first AAID Maxi course.
Yeah, Carl was quite a guy.
Some wonderful times up in Dearborn, Michigan with Carl.
Yes,
so,
for
all you guys who don't know, he's a doctorate of dental medicine from Southern Illinois University, graduating in 2006. He has an MBA that he's achieved, which is his business acumen multiplier. He's a fellow of the ICOI, the International Academy of Facial Dental Aesthetics. Got mastership diplomat, both of in the ICOI. So he's well trained. He's been doing his craft for 14 years as a dentist. Originally from Iran and lived in Germany, I understand. So he speaks many languages in addition to English, and he wants to share with my audience. He wants to share with them about some of his peer-to-peer experiences putting together top 100 dentists, top 100 doctors around the world. So I'm really glad to have you on, Kino. This is an honor for us to have such an astute clinician to address us. So tell us a bit about your goals as far as the top 100 dentists, top 100 doctors.
So after I had those 6 offices, and the majority of my challenges were not really dentistry. Dentistry was easy. The staff management, the HR, and all those things. And we didn't learn anything in dental school. They put us in one course and said, hey, here you go. But half of the equation is also having a business acumen, being able to relate to all the facets that come with it. So you're doing a series with leaders of the industry, and I'm very honored to actually be speaking with you, with the likes of Dr. Christensen, who can tell our colleagues what is good with continuing education, or Bill Blatchford that can tell us how to handle the insurance issue, and you can help us understand how we can increase productivity. But after dental school, after those 6 offices, my wife and I moved to California, and I started getting into an MBA. And at the same time, I got very interested in what was going on in the financial sector a few years ago. If you recall, what's known as blockchain. And blockchain is sort of creating a system where you cut out all the third parties and you make it a lean system where you don't even need the banks anymore. You can directly cooperate and create things. And then the idea started to flourish. Why, if it works for the financial sector, can it not work for dentistry? Why do we need all these parties when we have Dr. Christensen and Dr. Williams, and Dr. Blatchford, who have done this for 3-4 decades, that can help us, that have dedicated their lives to helping other dentists? So the idea started flourishing from there. I'm looking at the MBA. Once I finished that, I set up one small practice. Like yourself, I never worked for a big company in terms of being hired and all these benefits that often don't materialize. And I can assure you, and I want to get your opinion on this, if you believe that if you work for somebody else, that you have the future, the kind of future that you have without equity. But ultimately, the ideas came about to start peer-to-peer, not only from the financial perspective, but also from supply management, purchasing power, clinical advice. How can we be more productive? What's the correlation between productivity and health in this industry? And start getting all of that information from our colleagues and pass it on to the next generation, so we can maintain autonomy and freedom over our profession. So we don't end up like the optometrist and the pharmacist. So that's my profession's goal. My goal for the next decade or two, to do as much as I can.
Yeah, there's a group of dentists out there and physicians who want to keep autonomy, and there needs to be a viable private practice mechanism. And so what you're doing is going to be a real feather in the dental cap that may allow people to have private practice for the next, 2 or 3 generations.
It's my sincere belief that autonomy equals equity equals freedom.
Yeah,
and
I believe that.
Any other which way you look at it, because what happens chairside with the patient depends on a host of things, from material selection to scheduling to staffing your people. And it all crumbles down to what happens chairside. So if you have a floor supervisor telling you to go in here and do 2 crowns and go in there and do 2 fillings, that's not what we signed up for when we went into dentistry.
In 1990, I was at Omar Reed's in Phoenix, Arizona, and he said, I want to put together a group of guys to be a study club. And so he pointed out 8, 9 guys that were friends of his. He said, y'all should form a study club. And we did. We called it the Solstice Research Group. And people that were in that group, Nick Meyer, John Willoughby, Tony Roeder, Steve Cobble, Joe Ellis, Lee Osler, and myself, Tommy Oppenheim. A lot of these people became internationally famous lecturers and clinicians. Many of them became presidents of major organizations in the industry. And what we were studying was the initial examination of patients and how to do the one-on-one examination, face-to-face, eye-to-eye, knee-to-knee, away from the clinical setting and do the interview. And we were breaking it down, and it became what we call the new patient experience, which I've been teaching for 30 years now. And the new patient experience, getting to the patient before the hygienist gets them and actually understanding what they want, sharing with them who we are, and bonding with the patient. Those are the key elements that created for us the ability to be more successful overall, but to get better treatment plans understood by the patient so they could do a lot more dentistry. So our average patient needs about $17,000 worth of work if we look at every examination we do. So it turns the average patient into a very comprehensive patient when they understand their needs.
I agree with you on that. And hygiene can also be very effective in establishing a rapport with the patient before you come in and point out, for example, what the difference between an implant and a bridge is and why an implant is better. And they listen to the hygienist sometimes a lot more than they listen to us. But you're the preeminent authority on helping dentists to increase productivity in their offices. So I want to turn the tables around a little bit.
Yeah, anytime. What can I tell you?
Kind of understand what gave you all this motivation. You're a best-selling author, 10K a Dentist podcast, 5 million mastermind group. You founded the Solstice Dental Advisors. First of all, what has been your motivation now that you understand what my motivation is?
I want to help dentists finish well. I've gotten to the point where I should have finished already, but I'm in love with dentistry, so I'm not quitting yet. I'm still working, and I'll be 70 in a month or so. So my wish is to train dentists to finish well. I started out my career and began teaching dentists in 1981. So I was 5 years into practice before I started teaching dentists, but I kept doing it and I never have stopped. My first love was occlusion, TMJ, head and neck pain. And so I set up a mini residency in our practice, much like the Extraction Academy for TMJ head and neck pain. We were LVI before LVI became known. We were teaching and had people all over the world coming into our practice learning TMJ. I was basically doing neuromuscular dentistry from 1979 on. And so we did that for a decade or so. And then I passed it on to other people, and I did other businesses around the world. And I had business in Russia before it was broken up, or right after it broke up, actually. And Kazakhstan and Greece, Costa Rica, and Colombia. And then I tried some things in Indonesia and Philippines. So, I traveled the world trying to do things that were outside of dentistry, having fun. But I realized about 1999 that dentistry is the place that you'll make your most money. And so a lot of the dabbling I did didn't turn out very well in other businesses. So I came back and I focused on dentistry, and I started over at age 48. And I grew my practice $500,000 every year for 10 straight years. And the book that I wrote, Marketing the $1 Million Practice, really catalogs the marketing efforts and the mindset of how it is that you can build a $5 million practice in one location. And then a couple of years later, I started teaching dentists marketing and management, communication and leadership. And I want to sit down when I started my mastermind with one good lecture, one thing that would teach them that would really knock their socks off. And so I had to think about what lecture would that be. And it turned out, I said, I've been very productive on a consistent basis, averaging over $10,000 a day, every day for 15 years. And that number has risen over time to 16,000 a day. But right now, I would say that the 50 things I wrote down and put them in the book allow other dentists to get a foothold in being productive on a daily basis. And what I realized as I wrote the book was I can train other people in our mastermind to do the same thing, be $10,000 a day dentist with consistency. And so everybody that comes through our mastermind has their best month, their best year once they've come into the program. They may start out at 5 and go to 7, then they go to 8, and then they go to 10. Some of them come in at 10 and go to 15. So it just depends on where you are and how much you want to grow. But the whole key to that book is I show how to have the perfect day. And if you can replicate one day that's perfect over and over again, pretty soon you got a perfect month. And you can then start naming the days you want to work. And you might work 2 or 3 days a week and make as much as most dentists make in a 5-6 day week. So that's kind of my program, and that's kind of the way I look at it. And I always want people to finish well by finishing on their own terms. They might want to work less days as they get older. They might want to bring in an associate or something. That's up to them. The key is you've got to have a system that's going to allow you to do that.
Systems building is important. Everybody loves a 10K day. So I thought it was pretty clever, and it makes you feel good after you're done and you take your gloves off and you get in the car and head home. It was a good day.
When I look at my day sheet every day, and if I hit my 10, which is my goal, I'm a happy guy. And I show it to my wife and go, we did good today. And when I bring home the $50,000 day sheet, they go, how'd you do that? They start asking questions then. So
that's
it's
right,
possible.
but everybody knows the bills are going to be paid, and there'll be some extra to invest and to put into our retirement funds, right?
Yeah. And also the staff are on the same wavelength. They're happy because they all help put that together. And they know that if we have a lot of 10K days and best months ever, I've had 3 of the best months I've had in the last 2 years. And I've been working 45 years. So, a month of 250, 270 is not out of the reach. And working 2 or 3 days a week, that's pretty good.
Very, very impressive. And everybody knows that they get awarded the more productive you are. So team building is also important. This brings up 2 points that you identify in your books and your teachings as the mindset. In your book and in your other venues, you talk about 50 ways you have identified to create highly successful offices. Right. Just sort of briefly touch up on that, kind of give us an idea. And there's also 5 different categories. You have broken it down into mindset, team, facility, marketing, capacity. Could you kind of elaborate on this a little bit for our audience?
I'll be glad to. The key thing about understanding how to do something is kind of to compartmentalize it in your mind. And so out of the 50 things, I just kind of realized those things kind of go into a system of things that blend together well. And so when I looked at mindset, I grouped everything together that seems to be related to mindset, and then everything that related to team, everything that related to marketing, to facility, which is the hardest one to kind of put your hands around. But there are things related to the facility. It's like the number of rooms, the things that are on the walls as you walk down and do the tour, the type of room.
Location, maybe? Location selection?
What's that?
Location selection, maybe?
Oh, yeah.
Practice?
Yeah, facility location is a key one. If you're not in the right location with the right demographics, you're working uphill. You can be successful anywhere, urban, rural, suburban. It's a lot harder, though, if you're in the middle of 65 dentists on the same corner.
Yes.
If you're the only dentist in a county, then you don't have to work as hard to market. But it's possible. I've been consulting for decades, and the dentists that we treat, that we speak to, they're all over the country and they're in every state. So it could be done anywhere. I feel like mindset's where it starts, and I always put the emphasis on mindset shifts. We just had our mastermind open up for the 2020 year last weekend. So I'm just one day off of the mastermind being finished for the first session. And we had our mind shifts of the group, and it was an amazing event. We had people almost, not almost, they were crying over the mindset shift. If they understand that it's all possible, 2 or 3 guys were at 800,000 and they're going to go to 1.5 this year.
Wow.
One guy was at 350. He's going to go to 500. So we have all levels of dentists in the program. Guys that are from 83 years old, practicing still, down to some dentists that just been in practice for about 2 years.
That's wonderful. So let me ask you, what do you say to, so I kind of got an idea on mindset team facility. Marketing will also have to do with your location. Obviously, if you're in a high sky building, you're going to have to put a lot of marketing out to get the patients up the stairs versus if you're in a retail setting where you have a lot of foot traffic and so forth. What do you say to a young guy coming out of school with $500,000 of debt that wants to start his or her own life and have their own destiny, but is very afraid to jump into it? I don't know many cases of dentists going bankrupt, to be honest with you. So it's a good industry. It's quite bulletproof for recession. People will take their shirts off if they're in dental pain and give it to you to treat them. So what do you say to these guys that are afraid, that say, oh, my only chance is to go work for a corporation and I end up with no equity. I get paid 30% of the collections and get some small benefits. What do you say to that person, to that professional?
If you want your own place, you should go for it and not settle. I think walkabout is one of the most important things you can do to get started in dentistry. You find a community you want to be in, and you meet everybody in the community and become a staple of the community. A lot of the young guys want to live in a fancy part of town, and they want to practice away from their patient base, and they don't want to mix with the people. I think that's a big mistake. I've been very successful by being one of the community and working with the people. So I have this course that I put on called 7 Mountains of Marketing, where you talk about 7 centers of influence. And if you can mingle with the people that are influential in education and government and arts and media, sports, family, religion, if you can mix with those people and become the number one dentist that they think about and refer to in those circles, then you have an instant referral base that doesn't really cost you a lot, but you do have to do the walkabout. That means you have to mix with the people. You have to ask them what they need. How can I serve that mountain? How can I serve the sports industry? And I'll give you an example. I was the team dentist for the Gwinnett Gladiators of the ECHL, the minor leagues of the National Hockey League. I was the team dentist for the high schools. I was team dentist for the Georgia Force and the Arena Football League. And so you get known if you're the team anything. So that's a way to get known. And I had coaches and trainers sending me people that were injured from the football field, the practice field, making the mouth guards for the teams. For arts and entertainment, I had American Idol guy come into my office when he was on tour, because the director of the arena where they were putting on the Idol show, as it came through Atlanta, he knew I was the team dentist for the Gladiators. And so he sent the injured person that lost his front tooth before the program was to go on that night, sent him over to me to put the tooth back in.
This is a very, very important point that I also try to encourage colleagues. And I have the same thing. I have dentists, lawyers, accountants, celebrities walk in all the time from the office, from the hotels and other places we're involved in town. But you're maneuverable, more maneuverable than the competition. We can make decisions to engage in the community a lot faster, that they can go through their channels. That's one advantage that we have is community service and getting plugged in locally where we can outcompete everyone, especially like you said, in areas where we're not in the middle of 20 other dentists in a corner of our colleagues. You know, there's a saying, they say dentists are really close friends. We're about 5 miles. And then if they're not within 5 miles of each other, and then that gets a little bit more problematic with the competition. But yes, indeed, community service is one that has worked for me as well as it has for yourself. And also thinking outside of the box. When you are in an area where you're oversaturated, I, for example, work on Saturdays and Sundays. I make more money on Saturdays and Sundays than I do all week, because I get all of the patients that the hospitals can't handle and all the emergencies. They come through my office, they call, and the emails and the phone aren't blowing up, because during the week for me it does. So I focus more. I work 1 day a week on Tuesdays, and the rest I focus on my business ventures and all of these things that we're doing. So yes, that's a very, very important point, that we have the freedom to set our schedule. We have the freedom to work when we want, when we think it's appropriate. If you want to work till 10 at night and start at 5 o'clock in the evening, it's up to you. There's nobody telling you not to, or you can't. So that's the beauty of having your own practice. What do you think about what you have seen in the last 45 years of an amazing career, of the shift from the Midwest hospitality, doctor, dentist? You see your dentist when you go in. Now you have situations where you don't know what you're getting into when you walk into the door. There could be a different dentist every time there. And there are revolving doors for dentists to come and go. What do you think about what's going on in our industry?
I think it's dangerous for the profession to have certain types of clinics in operation. You know, there are some that work well and there's some that don't. I think that it takes a dental-led organization to be successful. So as soon as the dentist loses control, then you have a spiraling of issues that just tends to go downward. So I would say that if you have an organization where the dentist leads it, you may be safe. But if you have non-dentists leading a corporation, then there's a lot more potential for patient care to suffer.
I absolutely agree with you, 100%. If it's dentist-led, if it's colleague-led, and the dentist has either majority or preferably full ownership of the operation. I believe it's 47 states that prohibit the ownership of a dental office by a non-clinician or non-licensed person. So what they've been doing is they're setting up all of these nice entities in Nevada and Florida and other areas, and under the umbrella of management, they own all the assets and bring in these young doctors to produce more and more, and this is a big danger to our profession.
Yeah, you got to be careful. I think the individual treatment comes down to the doctor. You know, the doctor always has the bottom line of care. So you're not going to have every single large clinic have the same onerous situation. Some will be working well, some won't be working well. It all depends on the organizational setup and the mindset of the individual dentist that delivers the care to the patient. The more control a dentist has, typically the better situation that's going to be. But I'm not under the mistaken belief that every dentist on his own is a high quality producer or a high quality person. I think we have a range of dentists on the spectrum that are very ethical. And I'm sure on the other end, there's people that are just as bad in private practice that don't give good service as any big clinic. So we have to be careful putting our finger on the clinics and say they're the only bad people in town. There's a spectrum all across. I guess if you served on state boards and peer reviews, you understand that.
Yeah, there's bad apples in every industry. But as a patient, if I knew that my dentist is not in control of the clinic, and some management company somewhere is setting the rules and how to charge me and what to do and what not to do. I would prefer to go to the dentist that I have a personal relationship with. It's a doctor-patient relationship, and it's a very sacred thing. And you'll always have forces trying to interfere with that, and obviously we're not okay with it.
Yeah, yeah. Insurance started messing with our doctor-patient relationship severely in the last decade or two. Severe.
Oh yeah, and it's firing back on them. You know, this whole scenario with Delta and everything else that you now see. Yes, I mean, it's a sad scenario that now the first thing that comes that I hear most often out of patients is my insurance cover it. It's sir, ma'am, you don't treat patients based on insurance. We treat patients on their needs and the best outcomes we would want for them, that we would want for ourselves. So it's a very bad situation, and it's mind-boggling to me why the regulatory environment is not intervening, because there's a very aggressive interference by insurance in our industry. You know, there's some that believe that we shouldn't accept insurances and we should just give them their bills and say, hey, go ahead and contact your insurance company. We'll help you as much as we can. And some have found great success with that.
Yeah, we're stuck in the middle of three different places. We got the insurance companies over here, we got the state boards over here, and we've got the large corporate ownerships over here. And the solo practitioner in the middle is being pulled in three different directions as to what's the best to do. It's not easy to be a dentist.
Peer-to-peer collaboration. The best thing to do is to turn to advice from our colleagues that have prospered in dentistry, that didn't have to rely on any of those three items, and that always did the right thing. And that's what our top 100, for example, is about. When we went around and selected those individuals, we selected them from every corner of industry, be it from a dental laboratory, from and also from different countries. So we can turn to people for advice and collaborate and sort of level the field a little bit, you know?
I think that's marvelous. They'll make the fourth quadrant appear of places you can go for help.
That's right. That's right. So how often do you hold your courses? I'm very interested in recommending also the $5 million mastermind group. I believe you do that out of your own practice or home or something of that scenario. Is that correct?
Yeah, I train dentists in groups of 8. So we'll have one group of mastermind that meets 3 times a year for 2 days each, and we'll go 100 days apart. So we see them 3 times and do some coaching online and coaching on the phone over the year. So we're not totally abandoning them. We have a connection on a weekly, monthly basis. But we do one a year, and we may do multiple classes a year, but we keep the class small so we can interact with them. And I just finished one this weekend. So the next one that we have is January 2021. So we have a waiting list already built in. I was sitting there teaching the class, and one of my co-teachers, my son Tyler, was up there lecturing. So I was sitting on the back table, and a cell phone went off, and I looked at it, and it says, "I'm so mad at myself because I didn't join your mastermind that's going on this weekend." It was one of the guys that I had talked to, and he decided it wasn't yet time for him to be there. But he had a change of heart on 12 hours after it started. He wished he had been there. He was from upstate New York, and he wished that he had made his trip down to Atlanta. So we have a waiting list already.
I know you're doing a big conference too. Have you thought about doing bigger courses for doctors? Because I think there would be tremendous demand for we still by far outnumber any of our other competition. If a fraction of us came together, it would be a no-brainer. But you're doing a conference coming up this year, right? I saw multiple.
Well, I periodically speak in different locations, and I've been asked to come to Maine to speak to a group of 100, 150. And I've got another invitation to go to San Diego for the same, another conference. So, I mean, I do speak as a conference participant, and I can do 1 and 2 day courses, to hold meetings in different locations should they get arranged.
Lovely. I'd be interested in talking to you more about that. So, Doc, so it's all possible. And I wanted to kind of put an example out of what happened to me with the mindset that I originally had and that I have now. Going out, setting up a bunch of offices, having a really bad time while you're doing it with the amount of stress that comes with it, versus focusing on one office, 2 chairs. I can tell you it was $100,000 investment and proper negotiation with the vendors that allowed me extended period of time to make good on certain products and equipment in year 2. And we clocked in 800 some thousand dollars the first year out of 2 chairs. And then the second year, we were well over $1 million. And even if I had $500,000 student loans at the time, it would still be worth it to take out another $100,000 to start a practice of my own. It's all about negotiation with rent and tenant improvements and starting. You don't need 10 chairs to start. You know this because you grow it every year, $500,000, $500,000.
I started with 2 chairs myself and got $500,000, 1 million, and 2 chairs. So that's the way I started here in Suwanee.
There you go. So the big question becomes, why can't our colleagues, the younger colleagues, do it? Are the ones that are out there that are holding no equity. You know what the kicker is here? What they fail to actually reveal in information is that equity is what's worth. In Illinois or in the Midwest, where I was, it was 70% loan to value. In California, it's closer to 100% of loan value. So when you go out and you build a practice, 3-4 years later, you want to pass it on to a younger colleague. Another thing you invested $100,000 into is almost worth $1 million, and you can cash that out very quickly. You can probably sell it for $800,000-$900,000 very quickly, and that's something that we also forget to consider when you work for other people.
Yeah, there's no question that building equity is the best way to go. And I found that if you hire associates, you'll double your equity twice as fast, because the sales price is always equal to the production, and you can get 3 doctors to produce a lot more than 1 doctor.
Right. I think most of these brokers are looking at the last 3 years' tax returns. The average amount, my experience with them in the past. That's wonderful. So this is great information, Doctor. I really would like to nominate you next year for the World's Top 100 as U.S. representation. I hope you'll accept it later this year. Now about your humanitarian. So there's a community service. There's what we do for our families. There's what we do for our patients in our practice. But that's just not enough. As dentists, we are pillars of the community. So we do more. It's well known that dentists are innovators. It's well known that dentists have done a lot in human history. We have brilliant minds, the way we are trained and the way we encounter problem solving, starting with the DAT that you studied for and perceptual ability, to today where you are with traveling to Kenya and doing mission trips all over the world. A lot of our colleagues that I know, that I interact with, do these things. Tell me, what gratification do you get out of it? Because money is just not everything.
I really did enjoy my 10, 12 trips to Kenya over a decade, to Honduras, and most recently to Vietnam. I find that I thought I was going over to do a service, that I would be giving back because I had the ability that I could do things that they didn't have, and it was going to be a good feeling to give to them. And when I went over and I finished the first weekend, I already knew this was not exactly how it was going to be. I was overwhelmed after the first full week. We sat with the leaders of the village in Kenya around the campfire, and we started telling stories about what it meant to the people for us to come over there. And I got the feeling that they gave me more back than they were given by me. You know, I gave them free dental services, and we did all kind of good things. But I think the benefit I got was serving people gave me more internal reward than any external reward that I could have gotten by staying home and working. And so it was a spiritual balance that I achieved, that I was able to understand more of my purpose in life. I was able to understand the gifts that I've been given and how special they are, and how our American dream can be transported to other places, that you're not stuck where you were born. You can always achieve more if you just have somebody that'll lead the way.
This is all possible to get to a stage where you can help others. But we can help others also, doctor, in our private practices. I don't think it costs us too much in overhead. One day a month or one day a quarter where we take in the patients that came that didn't have the money, that are suffering or in pain. From what I understand, dental pain can be more severe than giving birth, which I hear that a lot, chairside.
Yep.
So I do a lot of wisdom teeth and extractions and so forth, and I have for many
That's right.
years. And they come in with a lot of pain. So how do you think that would affect the private practitioner's office to do community service, to do goodwill, humanitarian work, just not only from the gratification perspective, but also to improve their business and status in the local community?
Yeah, well, we became known as the missions dentist in Atlanta. Anybody in Atlanta that thinks about a dentist who's going to give back to the community knows about us. Anybody who thinks about going on a mission trip overseas, they think about us. And this is 5 million people that live in our metro area. I'm on the radio and the TV talking about these missions quite often. And also, I do a thing called the Deserving Diva Program, which is taking deserving women or men who have demonstrated something to give back to the community. We set up the guidelines to where they had to be nominated by people and they had to share the story about how they were giving back to the community. And so we would comb through a submission of 200 or 300 people that other outsiders had nominated, and then we would choose 1 or 2 per doctor in our practice to do a complete makeover. And so every year for 5 or 10 years, we've done that. And we'll give away $100,000, $150,000 worth of dentistry to those 3 or 4 or 5 people. And we do a complete makeover. And a lot of the cases were $50,000 cases, $25,000 cases, because they involved implants and sometimes it involved 28 crowns. And we would have a red carpet reveal. And it was just like the Bill Dorfman makeover show.
Wow.
Locally.
That's so honorable and so noble, doctor. I commend you on what you do there. Wow, that's exciting stuff. And any dentist in any area can do that. And part of the whole marketing thing is to stand out. You'd be surprised. One of those people that comes in with pain and you do an extraction for them, just like anything else, when you do something good, more people will hear about it. They'll refer more patients to you. That might be fee for service or insurance or whatever it is that you take. So it all sort of crumbles together and is part of the whole package. You seem to have done all the right moves, even when you started in your 40s again, over. That is, I wish more and more of our colleagues could step in your footsteps. Experience trumps all. Experience trumps all, which means that if you're smart and you're wise of a professional, you talk to other colleagues so you don't make the same mistakes and you learn from what they have already learned.
Isn't it true that other guys can lead you and guide you and you won't have to make the same mistakes?
That's right. Or you're going to pay for it one way or another. You're going to pay a lot of money for it. Instead of tuning in for an hour or reading a book or going, for example, to one of your courses or another person's, whatever it is, you don't get it this day. You're going to learn it the other way for sure. So last but not least, my question for you is the next topic I wanted to cover. The last topic is innovation. You know, you've probably seen this, but it was maybe in the 70s when they started implementing the high-speed handpiece at 3,000 RPM. I don't even want to know what they did before to do extractions. I can just imagine how painful that could have been with a chisel and a mallet. So tell me, why is innovation so important? I always tell colleagues, if you find a problem in dental setting that bothers you and annoys you every day, find a solution for it. You're not that far into the innovation stream. It's everything is new and everything is rapidly changing. So you could be the next Nick, you could be the next Dr. Williams. So go out and invent it. Think about a solution. Your mind can lead you there. So what do you think about innovation? I understand you're involved in some really advanced cutting edge research with redox. I'm doing some stuff on stem cells, so I'm interested about hearing about those two topics, innovation and what you're doing in that space.
When I started my practice years ago, I got involved with Kai's technique, and then I got involved with the oral systemic connection when it kind of got to be popular in the late 1990s and early 2000s. So I've been following oral systemic, and I was one of the early members of the American Academy of Oral Systemic Health. So I run around with Lee Osler all the time. He's one of the founders of that, and Chris Kammer. And so I got introduced to ASEA redox, which is the redox signaling molecules from Dr. Osler. And as we studied it together, we realized there's a big benefit to dentists to use this in their practice. And it's a big benefit to me, myself, and my family to use this personally to create the anti-aging effects and the wound healing effects. There's so many benefits to the redox system that every cell in your body is maximized in its ability to epigenetically improve itself, because you're dealing with the level of the DNA being expressed more efficiently when you're adequately supplemented with the redox. For those who don't know, redox signaling molecules are made in your mitochondria every day, every moment. And as you get older, about 1% a year, they decrease. And so in a decade, that's 10%. And when you get as old as 70, you've had a 50 to 60% reduction in how many were made when you were 10 or 20 or 15 years old. And so supplementation does work. And, well, nobody knew you could even supplement these things until about 10 years ago, when they were finally stabilized by a medical atomic physicist named Gary Samuelson. So Gary, once he figured out how to stabilize these things, brought them to market. And so we've been using those in our practice for over a year. And I've seen tremendous healing, implants and wound healing, gum problems, surgical areas, wisdom teeth extractions, all heal faster, less pain. I've done cases where I took out 7 teeth, put in 4 implants immediately loaded, and the patient had not one aspirin. They had no pain, and they healed immediately. I mean, like, so fast. And I go, this is not normal. Extraordinary. So I started using it more, and I recommend it to my patients as a pre-op liquid to drink, a gel they can rub on their gums or on their skin to heal lesions. Actinic keratosis is I use it on my own skin, and the actinic keratosis go away. Don't have to have them burned off or frozen off by the dermatologist. So it's just a marvelous product. And I've been studying it, and we've run across stem cell doctors who use it in conjunction with their stem cell treatments. And they say that the use of redox makes the stem cells work better.
Wow, I wonder if this stuff works with PRP, because that's a big industry now as well.
I use PRP in our practice, and I can't say that I've studied the combination that much, so I'm not going to comment, but I believe it would accelerate the PRP too, because we're talking of cellular mechanisms being enhanced. Every single cell uses the redox balance as the way that it functions. You know, you don't get a cell membrane open to allow a chemical, another molecule to go through the cell membrane unless redox opens it. So it's the opening and closing of membranes even. It's the transcription information from the DNA to the RNA transcriptase. You got to have the redox in balance before that'll happen. You got to have redox so that you can recognize an immune system challenge. And it just goes on and on what redox is involved in.
That's really interesting. So from what I understand, delivery system would be as easy as a topical application and a drink prior.
That's all it is. It's basically you drink a liquid twice a day, or you rub the gel on twice a day. And the effect is systemic, even if you rub it on your skin.
Where can our colleagues find out more information about this?
We have a couple of information sites that we put together, redoxdentistry.com, Dr. Osler and we also have a Redox Dentistry page on Facebook. So that's a good place to reach us. You can always look me up, William B. Williams or Dr. Bill Williams, depending on where I am. You can always look me up and send me a note, and I'll send you information. I have a lot of videos that describe this, and just, you know, anywhere from a cartoon that shows how it functions in the body all the way up to testimonials of patients who are healed of wild things, amazing things. So you're talking about traumatic brain injury, you're talking about concussion, you're talking about stampeded by a bull. I've got a Tom Beasley, an NFL defensive lineman who was trampled by a bull, and he was healed tremendously by taking the redox. He was up in, it's supposed to be 10 months. He was supposed to be down, couldn't get up, and he was up bicycling in 10 weeks.
Wow.
So I've got a lot of testimonials that are pretty impressive.
Yes, I'm going to do some more research on this too, and get back to you on areas. I work with Dr. Arun Garg. He's a pioneer of some of the PRP stuff, and we are always looking at other areas such as stem cell research to see where there's collaboration called for.
Last year at the Dental XP Symposium with Salama and all the good folks at the Goldstein Garber Salama group, they're my buddies here in Atlanta. I was sitting in the audience watching the implant whole shebang, and one lecture showed up that talked about glutathione deficiency and how oxidative stress is a big part of implant failure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it just turns out that ASEA redox is the number one way to increase glutathione and reduce oxidative stress. You can increase your glutathione 500 to 800% just by drinking the liquid.
Wow.
Now, there's no other way to increase glutathione like that. You can get glutathione shots, and it might go up 5 or 10%. But we're talking 500 to 800% when you're talking about drinking the liquid. And the shots cost thousands of dollars over a month or two, whereas the liquid costs just hundreds. So it's an amazing difference between what you can achieve with this supplement versus what the medical profession already has available.
Knowing the dentist, knowing dentists, our colleagues, we love evidence-based research. What stage are you guys at, and how much research has been allocated to this product?
The product itself is 10 years old. They've got about 5 or 10 studies that are actually using the product probably, that are all positive, all good, showing some very good results. Gene expression increases by 20 to 30%. Now, if you want real studies of real science, before this product was a product or studying the science of redox, there's 20,000 articles on PubMed right now.
Wow.
And they're done by medical groups on neurology, on obstetrics, on psychiatry.
Have you noticed how much the medical partners of ours are more advanced in regenerative medicine than we are? Why is that?
Well, we've been tooth carpenters focused for a long time, and the basic sciences just aren't as advanced. We've always been focused on repair, not regeneration.
I foresee that regeneration is going to be a big part of dentistry in the future. That's my prediction.
It'd be exciting.
Years and all of that, all that comes with PRP, redox, stem cells, growth factors.
Well, we could regenerate bone pretty well already now, but the regeneration of an organized tooth enamel structure is still beyond us. We can't, at this point that I've seen anyway, we can't regenerate a tooth from nothing.
Well, there are claims coming out of China they can. I have a problem understanding how it would erupt into the mouth, because there's a very long process, the eruption process. So if you're going to somehow implement the tooth and it grows into a tooth, how is it going to be the right tooth, and how is it going to be in the proper alignment?
That's why it's difficult. It's like we're not going to go through a maturation process of 6 years to grow a tooth.
Yes, that's an issue. So they're trying some things, but I think we're far away from that. In our generations, we may or may not see the final product. But I think, like you said, we have already mastered bone regeneration and increasing vertical height and horizontal width and all those good things. But yeah, so the bottom message here is that you are in a beautiful profession at the right time in history. All you have to do is take charge, get your feet wet, and take off running, and you'll never look back again. Next thing you know, you're taking trips to Kenya and helping other people all over the world.
Find a mentor and follow them. That's the key.
Follow a mentor. It's like if you hire a marketing person, they're just a vendor. If you hire a marketing partner, they become your partner. Someone you can turn to like your accountant and your lawyer that you regularly speak with. So partnership is very, very strong, important, and we do have to, as clinicians, turn to experts in the field to advance. Great messages, great information, Dr. Williams, all around. I think we hit about 7 major topics today related to continuing education, practice management, productivity, goodwill efforts, and on it goes. I really thank you for taking this podcast, and I look forward to working with you because I will be learning, and I've taken a lot of notes here myself to follow up on, and I really appreciate it.
Good. I'm glad we could serve your audience as you were motivating our audience. So it's a synchronicity that we've got going, peer-to-peer. It's the way that we can all generate more business and more health and a lot more fun.
Lean system, and we understand each other, even though there may be some lame dental jokes once in a while. we all understand each other. I always say dentists are usually like Marines. They can stick together and they listen to each other a lot more. They listen to salespeople. A lot of time when the salespeople are at the front desk, I'm hiding in the back, But if you're recommending a product to me, it's a whole different scenario for me. I want to look into and research and understand.
Yeah,
but
this
I really appreciate your valuable time today.
Yeah, this is new science, and this is new territory that nobody in dentistry has ever studied before, how it connects to the biological sciences. So I invite everybody to find out more about the ASEA Redox by contacting me. And I think the future for the next 10 years, I'll be spending more time talking about that than I will practice management. I think it's that big.
Yes, and if you could kindly email me all of the links that I will post so our colleagues can go to them and readily find information. I have a few of them down from your practice and your Redox. You send me all of those, I will share that with my entire network over multiple social media platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. In the same way, my audience will get all of your contacts for the 100 Doc and the Extraction Academy and all the things you're doing. We will cross-promote and cross-pollinate so that people know about each other. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for moving our industry forward, Dr. Williams.
Take care. See you at Kenora.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the 10K a Day Dentist podcast. If you enjoyed the show today, please subscribe, rate, and recommend on iTunes and your other listening or viewing services. Dr. Williams asks that you like and share the podcast with a friend. And if you want more great information, visit 10kway.com and check out the show notes for more great resources. Thanks again for listening. And don't forget, get your free copy of Dr. Williams' #1 best-selling ebook, The $10,000 a Day Dentist, and other surprise bonuses at 10kway.com.